everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mason Clark.
That's me.
Matt Kling.
Hey, how's it going?
And Michael Hinderrocker.
Hey, what's up? I return to the good old days of, hey, how's it going, and hey, what's up?
I stole your thunder.
No, Casey and I used to have this worked out really well.
See.
Well, I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week. We're going to go over the M19 spoilers. There's a lot of really cool cards. I got to jump on last minute. That's how you know it's going to be a good episode. So I'm super excited. Spencer's currently fixing his mic real quick. So let's talk about hashtag always improving. Hashtag always improving is the point of this show. And Michael, how did you always improve this week? Much better, Spencer.
Perfect.
I don't know that I did improve this week. This was sort of a week of getting mostly smashed in an RPTQ, and I don't know. There was a whole lot to take away from it.
Yeah, you had that anchor on your team though. He was like, that guy was super bad. I don't remember his name right now.
Speaking of which, Matt, how did you improve this week?
Well, I started playing Vintage today. That was cool.
Can we start by talking about our sponsors and stuff?
I was going to do that afterwards, but I forgot. I was going to segue how Oasis would never forget like I forgot them. But you ruined it!
I fixed my mic for 2 seconds, and we're 10 minutes into the show!
Yeah, I messed it up a little bit. I didn't realize that you would stop talking, so I kind of took over and panicked. It's all right.
It's
I want to hear more about Vintage, though, because I heard there's a Hollow One deck.
Tell us about Vintage, Matt.
So
I've been playing a little bit of Paradoxical Outcome Storm today, as well as I played some Inferno Oath earlier, and that deck's probably bad, so I wouldn't recommend that one, but the Paradoxical Outcome Storm deck is like the actual greatest thing I've ever played. So if you have the ability to play Storm on Magic Online, or Vintage on Magic Online, I definitely would.
Alright.
I want to hear about this Hollow One deck. We were talking about it before the show. So why is there a Hollow One deck in Vintage again? Can you tell me real quick?
Well, so the reason that there's a Hollow One deck is because Bizarre Baghdad is kind of broken. Basically, you can draw 2 cards and discard any 3 you choose. So it's like Burning Inquiry, except you always get to keep the Hollow Ones.
Yeah, it doesn't cost mana. See, this is dredge for people who don't like mulliganing to 0.
Yeah, it's a deck that can theoretically play without a Bizarre Baghdad.
I mean,
it plays
lose,
like a sort of It plays like a sort of Hate Bears Mavericky deck. It plays a bunch of Thalias and like Dark Confidants and things of that nature.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna play Vintage now.
Hollow Boys are back in town. You know who else is back in town? Our sponsors. You can check them out at ggoasis.com. You can get 15% off of your first order by using the code CCMTG in checkout. And you know what would be good, Mason? It'd be good if we didn't forget our amazing sponsors. And you can use the code hashtag would that be good to get 4% off of every order.
I would never forget to use that code. I ordered some Tron pieces from them. Don't worry. You see, what I really did is people like skip ahead through the sponsorship. Just caught you. Now you missed hashtag always improving. Got to go back here again. Got kids. I know how you kids are today with your yeets and whatnot. I'm on your games.
You're the worst human.
Whew. I ain't Ethan, that's for sure.
You know who's not the worst human, though, is our other sponsor. You can check them out at... I can't even. Mason!
You know who can, though, is the Mana Base. With their great content, they're able to help people like Spencer in times like this. Spencer's having a hard time. He gets to go to our sponsor, the Mana Base, help them out. They've got sealed product. So if any of us had actually gone well at our RPDQs, we could have bought M19 for them in practice draft for no reason because there's none of the Pro Tour for some reason. But the Mana Base, it's great. You can get sealed product. I forgot they didn't have a sealed part of the PT, which still feels weird because team draft would be kind of sweet to watch. I get that it would be lame.
Yeah, so I appreciate that you just, powered through the segue regardless as you realized it was sort of a dumpster fire.
That's the story of my life, Michael. Story of my life.
You know what's not a dumpster fire, though, is always improving. And it's good to hear about Matt playing Vintage, Michael not doing well at Magic finally. I'm just saying, just always win those things. Does he not? Am I wrong?
No, Michael always wins. Didn't we decide last week he has the highest day 2 conversion of anyone on Earth, probably? Or like top
yeah.
10 at worst?
Yeah, easy. All right, cool. Glad we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But for real, always improving is the point of this podcast. We believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. We want to be doing what we can all the time to improve ourselves. Next week on Always Improving Mode for the show will be to follow the show notes and like to do it correctly. So, but for me this week, my Always Improving is just learning to not get tilted while you're ahead. I had a game this week where I was playing against Mono Red. I was really far ahead. It was a really big game. It was kind of important. All right, Mason.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We're going to take 1 second for a technical break. Spencer's headphones are really messing up, and we'll be right back. Okay, but seriously though, we are back now. Now that your mic is fixed. Sorry about that, everyone.
You can't just go back while everybody's laughing.
Sure.
Okay. So where was I? Where would you like me to start?
You were losing to Mono Red.
Yeah. So I was actually not losing. It was about turn 8. Was at 20 life. And I was really frustrated that I didn't draw a land because I knew what my opponent's hand was. I knew that like basically he had to draw something really sweet off the top to beat me. And I didn't draw the land to have up both a counter spell and my instant speed wrath effect. And I had a cast out in my hand and something else. And I decided to settle the wreckage of my opponent, even though I didn't have counterspell backup. And I was like, the only thing that really punishes me is a Chandra. And then if he doesn't have a Chandra and has like literally anything else, this game is actually over, and I am going to the Pro Tour. But it's actually just a really stupid mistake, because I don't need to do that. I'm at 20 life. I can just take the hit. If he doesn't do anything, I can cast out one of his creatures at end step and continue to play the game with those cards in hand, beating Hazarets, beating Chandras, things like that. So it's just a risk I didn't need to take to try and end the game that I was really excited to end. And it was kind of stupid, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, that can be a hard lesson to learn, especially in that moment.
So that's my always improving moment this week.
Well, my always improving moment this week was I felt like I was kind of like in a funk after Vegas and everything. I wasn't doing very well in League, so I just said I'm going to load up Red-Black. I'm going to play some Leagues. I'm going to really focus on making decisions that matter and thinking about my plays and taking my time. And did that for 2 leagues. And I 4-1 both of them and just felt good. You just need a reminder. I need to slow down sometimes and get back into the rhythm of things. So that was my hashtag always improving moment this week.
Cool.
Spencer, okay?
I don't know if my mic's not working.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay.
It's fine now. Yeah.
Okay,
No
I just
worries.
got another text on my phone and I was like, "Oh, is it broken again?"
Oh, I
I
think I'm lagging actually, like with my cell phone provider. I've been having issues. My
Okay.
bad.
Not
Sorry.
a problem. This is great for our listeners.
Yeah, just like our sponsors, they're also
We
good for our
don't need
listeners.
broken microphones to sound bad.
Yeah. Wait till you hear us talk about these cards in a
Pure
second.
talent here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So this week is our favorite show that we do and that we always change, and that's our set review show. So rather than doing the entire set, which we've done in the past, rather than doing top 25 cards ranked by our patrons, we're still trying to find out like what's the best way to do a set review on a show like Constructive Criticism. And so we want to talk about cards that people want to talk about, but what we really want to do is talk about cards that we find interesting because we think it will make the best content. So for that reason, that's what we're doing this time. We're kind of actually more excited about it this way. And Mason, why don't you go ahead and start us off with our first card, which is a Johnny.
All right, so the first card is, as Spencer said, a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants. It's 2 white, white, and it says, starts at 4 loyalty. So for +1, you can put a +1/+1 counter up to 2 target creatures. You can -2 to return target creature with a converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then you can -7, you get an emblem at the beginning of your end step. Create 3 1/1 white creature tokens with lifelink. Cat creature tokens with lifelink, sorry. So, Matt, how excited are you to play this in your deck that goes Pride Sovereign, this Regal Caracol?
So I don't know what Pride Sovereign is, but I actually do think that this card is actually quite good.
Okay.
The plus for 2+1/+1 counters is actually really powerful, especially for a 4-mana Planeswalker that comes in on essentially 5 loyalty if you do that. So it's going to be very hard to attack it into
Yeah,
it.
it kind of reminds me of like any time that you might have faced like Planeswalker and Sylvan Advocate, where it's like, how do I ever attack into this thing profitably for the first couple turns?
Right. I mean, Johnnies are actually kind of known for that. They had the 3-mana Johnny that came in on like 7 loyalty or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, and I mean even the original Johnny, right, came down and kind of just plugged the board full of power and toughness.
Yep. As far as the minus mode, it's probably going to be pretty good. Like it's if you're building a deck around it, it's a lot. It's very similar to the Liliana Death's Majesty minus. Obviously, you won't be able to return powerful things like the Scarab God or whatever. But if you're building your deck around this, then I assume that mode will be good as well.
Or even the other Liliana, right, where you just gonna put a card back into your hand.
Which one?
Isn't that what the other 3-mana Liliana does?
Oh, sure. Liliana the Last Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one puts it into play, but
I know. I'm just saying, like it kind of reminds me of that kind of advantage.
sure.
It seems like this card really wants to be in like a go wide, like low creature, like low mana cost deck. That's like kind of the vibe I'm getting from this.
See it that way. I think it's also like potentially, it's just going to be good in most any deck with like some early creatures. It's going to make you really dominant in combat in the early game, I think. Like,
Yeah, it also
its
doesn't
minus
take
is
that.
pretty good late. Its plus is great early.
Yeah, its plus is like really good at making you get to its ultimate, which we've seen other planeswalkers when their plus like advances the game plan towards their ultimate. I mean, you could and protects them, right? So, we look at 6-mana Elspeth putting three power and toughness into play. We look at Gideon putting. I mean, he didn't have an ultimate, but putting a 2/2 into play, right?
His ultimate was +1.
Yeah. Attack you, take 5.
Yeah, but if we think about like that type of game plan, I mean, if you look at Teferi, right, untapping its lands is its form of protecting itself, and drawing cards to continue to protect itself. Like that's really what you want in a planeswalker, and I think that 2+1/+1 counter split across multiple creatures is a deceiving ability of protecting itself, kind of like Teferi's was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it actually is very situational when it protects itself as a plus, but that's probably very intentional as well. It's actually pretty rare, especially for a 4-mana Planeswalker, that it protects itself while plussing.
Right.
So, I mean, if you find yourself in a scenario where that's actually happening, like you said, it is going to lead to an ultimate most of the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we look at a card like Jace the Mind Sculptor, right? Like, some amount of the time, plussing was actually protecting it. And when that was happening, it was just like...
Oh, right, when you were
going
bottoming their cards? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining this with Walking Ballista, and it seems kind of great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously it
Abzan
has some
Snake.
synergies there.
Boom. Broke it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
This
we
card
like
puts
this
me
card.
off. Yeah, it's my second favorite walker.
I think it's decent.
Cool. Well, let's go on to the next one. Michael, why don't you go ahead and read us Tezzeret?
Tezzeret Artifice Master costs 3 and 2 blue. It comes in with 5 loyalty. It says +1, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 0, draw a card. If you control 3 or more artifacts, draw 2 cards instead. And -9, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
So why don't people like this card?
Are there people that have said they don't like this card?
Yeah, people have said like it's not good, like it won't see any play.
Well, my assumption is if they don't like this card, it's because they're too hung up on the if you control 3 or more artifacts clause. You don't actually need that is the thing, right? Like if it's 5 mana for 0 draw card, that's fine. And then +1 make a Thopter is also pretty good.
Yeah,
when
all
you
the
actually get
abilities
to
seem
do
good.
Yeah, when you actually get to do the 0 mana or 0 loyalty divination, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, I think realistically you don't need that many artifacts. Like,
Yeah, because it's
I
going to
think
create
that having-
some itself. Like when I see this
can.
card, I think of the 5 mana Jace that was like a really good sideboard Jace.
Jace Memory Adept, and it saw main deck play. It was fine.
Is that the one that
Hey,
mills 10?
yeah.
That might not be the one I'm thinking of.
You're thinking, yeah. Are you thinking the one that it's +1, mill 1, and then draw card, and then it's 0 is like mill 10?
No, I don't. Keep
I'm
talking.
thinking the
I'll
Innistrad one, I think. But
No, keep talking. It's okay.
yeah, I like this card. I
Oh.
think. Oh, sorry, Michael, you go.
I think, like, the biggest issue probably is that it plays pretty poorly from behind. I think that creating a 1/1 is basically always going to be at best a chump blocker. That being said, I think, having 0 potentially being divination is really, really powerful.
Well,
You
and
could
I
also
think
just play this in a deck with Karn, and those Thopters actually become really good, right?
Karnstruck.
Sure.
Like this is a card that I know that blue-green Karn deck wasn't very good before, but something along that lines with this card is probably a lot better. I don't know if the format's will allow you to play that kind of deck, but that'd be
I
like
don't even
one
know
of
that
the
it
best
needs
cards.
to be blue green.
Well, yeah, I just meant
this-
a Karnstruck type deck,
Well, I'm saying we've seen blue black artifact control decks. It could be that there's a shell that because you get such a powerful control card. It could be that it supports something more like that and Karn as these huge mid-range generating engines alongside something else. I don't know.
The other
So-
Tezzeret does work well with this too, where you play it, get an artifact, and then you play this, and you get another artifact, draw 2 cards.
my biggest problem with this card right now is I think it's going to be completely overshadowed by Teferi, which is not really a problem of this card, but more of a problem with just being in the same format as Teferi. It's going to be hard to actually have a controlling planeswalker that costs 5 mana even. You're just going to play Teferi every time, right? And you're probably not in the market for the 5th planeswalker.
Sure.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair characterization.
So yeah,
All
if
right.
it's play, it's not going to be a control really. All right.
Mason, why don't you go ahead and read us Liliana?
Ooh, I like this one. Liliana, Untouched by Death. 2 black. She starts at 4 loyalty. Her +1 is put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Her -2 is target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. And then -3 is you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn.
I don't like this card at all.
So the reason I like it is this, and I believe it's Sarkin. I don't think there are any other planeswalkers in this set, but they're tribal walkers, and I like to see them kind of push in that direction. Because I don't like that all the walkers are all they all are always mid-range value cards basically, where control finishers. It's cool that there's one that's tribal based. I don't know if it's good at all in a zombie deck anywhere, but I like the fact that they're pushing tribal walkers.
How many cards would this have to mill before you would think it was good?
5?
Is that the choke point, you think?
It's one of them. It could be self.
But the problem is the more it mills, the worse it gets at the same time, right? It could mill 5 cards and it would be insane, but then you'd also die really freaking fast.
So
Yeah.
are we under the impression that if its +1 was
Wait,
drained
hold
for
on.
2
It doesn't. Hold on. I actually thought
No,
it put
this
the
is
zombie
worse than
into
current.
play.
No, they just lose life. It doesn't put a zombie into play. It's worse.
I don't think this card is good at all.
Right. Are we under the impression that if it was just drained for 2, that it would be playable if it didn't have the mill on it? Is that what you're saying, Michael?
No. How many?
He's saying he's trying to make
how
it broken
good would
by
the interaction have to be with the -3?
Yeah, because
I think
Oh,
my
sure.
biggest
So
issue with this
basically, you're
card is
saying
you
you're
just
saying
don't
that the
mill
next
enough
card
cards.
theoretically is draw a bunch of cards. Well, my problem with that is that the mana is actually going to be the choking point, right? Like, it's not like you're going to be able to cast a lot of zombies, right? Like the -3 probably ends up being divination at best. I mean, it's obviously a better divination, right? Because it's drawing you.
onto the battlefield.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's,
Creatures.
Cast all zombie cards.
it doesn't put them on the battlefield. You still have to pay for them, but it does draw you specifically spells, and right, the spells you
So-
want to cast most of the time.
If it milled you 10, would this card be great?
I don't think that there's an amount
Yeah,
that you can
it'd be
mill
like
that
a
would make it
reanimator
good.
card, though. Like you just wouldn't play it for like this reason, right?
I don't understand what you guys are talking about. Like, you still have to pay the mana for these zombies, right? It's not a reanimator card.
But like if you play like a bunch of cheap ones, like there's a lot of 1 mana 2/2 zombies, right? Like
Yeah, but is that good? I mean, it's
I
like
I would imagine this is a sideboard card for a zombie tribal deck against control decks, right? And they fumigate you, and you're like, all right, play this, tick up, yeah, hit you for a little bit. All right, next turn, replay 4 zombies, go.
you think you're going to be able to play 4 zombies? You have to have like 8 mana to do that.
Not if you have like like the 2/2s and like I mean like there aren't that many in standard right now, but for more like modern and stuff like that, I guess like they could print more. But there is like 2 low cost zombies that are okay, and there's the one from Amonkhet, the 2/1 that comes back from the graveyard.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
the 2/1
Dread
comes
Wanderer.
back anyway, though. Dread Wanderer just already has that ability.
Yeah, but it does cost 3 mana. But now you get to have like another version of it. I'm not saying this card is good. I'm just saying like I think the only way it is good is if it's against control and you maximize the minus. I think that's what Michael's saying. I think you could.
Well,
like
I think
play
that
a lot of
there are
zombies.
ways that this card could be good, but I don't think that the plus milling more cards makes it like, significantly better. It's not where I would start retooling this card if I was trying to make it a constructed all-star.
It sounds like nobody thinks this card is good. So let's move on to
So for what it's
Sarkhan.
worth, I do think it's interesting. I like that they're pushing planeswalkers in the direction of like at least they're trying to make planeswalkers where they don't have like necessarily an ultimate, but like a semi-valuable ability that costs a little bit more loyalty,
Yeah,
but
sure.
that it can do right away.
I think having 2 available minuses on ETB is at least kind of a cool idea.
Also,
Right.
late game, it's like not a terrible top deck. Like if you've been going really long and flood out, you might be able to like minus immediately and play like 2 zombies from the graveyard, which wouldn't be the worst.
Right.
We talked about this card more than we probably should have. Sarkhan Fireblood. Spencer, would you like to talk about this one?
Yeah, so it's red 1 for a 3 mana planeswalker that comes into play with 3 loyalty. That's a Sarkhan. You get a +1 to discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. +1 to add 2 color of any mana of any colors to your mana pool. We'll skip the caveat. -7. Create
Caveat.
4/5/5 dragon creature tokens with flying. So with what I just said,
Well,
how good is
your
this
version
card?
of this
Matt?
card is broken.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Spencer,
that
you made
card
the
that you
best
just
planeswalker
described is very
space.
good.
Yeah. It's amazing how if we change what cards do, they're better.
Well, you guys are doing it with Liliana, so I want to do it with the one that I want it to be like just slightly different.
That's fair.
Yeah, so
Well,
you can only spend that
You're
mana
trying to
on
make Liliana playable.
dragons.
You're trying to make Sarkhan, like vintage playable or whatever.
It's just the Black Lotus that keeps on giving, really.
What do you guys think?
I think this card's could be playable.
It could. I think that this
I
card's
think
fine.
The looting ability is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's true. Traditionally, planeswalkers that had multiple pluses have been quite good. That being said, I think that the top +1, the being able to loot, is actually quite good. I think that the add mana for dragons is probably not very good. I think that the dragons in this format are just not enough right now, but
Yeah,
it's possible that in the
Sarkhan is
future
so
they
good
won't
It
be.
has to be right. If you're willing to play it, if you just happen to be playing a number of dragons in your deck.
Yeah, I
you
think
don't
that that's
necessarily
really
have
what
to
it
be
does.
Playing like 15 or whatever.
Sure, I mean that's true, but are there any dragons that we're excited about right now other than like?
Glory Bringer.
Sure, I mean we're excited about Glorybringer. That's fair.
I don't know.
Bolas.
Yeah, I mean obviously some of the dragons from this set that we'll get into a little later, but
Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't think there are enough dragons, but I mean those are like the 2 good dragons, and I think in theory you'd be playing with those or like the I think it's Jund Dragon or something like that. I'm not actually sure the color combination, but there's one that's like
No,
okay.
Jund
From
one
the
looks crappy.
I'll find it while we're talking, but
my
know
guess
the
is
Jund
for
one.
3 mana that discarding first and then drawing a card is probably not good enough, even if it's every turn. And I mostly disregard ultimates because, if you're ultimating planeswalkers, like you mostly already won that game.
The Naya Dragon was the one I was interested in. Sorry, I had found him.
Yeah, you're good.
Yep. I don't know, Spencer, you seem excited about this card. You wanted to make it good. What do you think?
I mean, I think this card is. I think Michael kind of just hit the nail on the head with what he said. To be honest, like, it's fine. Like, it'll.
Oh, your microphone just cut out.
Yeah, your microphone cut out there for a second.
I thought it was me maybe,
Surprised
but then
I saw no.
Mason said whoa, so.
I would imagine this card will see some play, probably not a ton. And it's not. I guess one of the things that I do like about it is that it sort of deals with excess copies of itself fairly efficiently. So if it was a card that was good in your deck, you could play kind of a lot of them compared to most
Right.
blockers. Not quite like it has some of the Gideon Ally of Zendikar things going on there.
Yeah.
Like there's really just very little downside to drawing a second one.
Agreed. I said it for the Liliana, I'll say it here again. I really like the idea of having tribal planeswalkers, and this and the Liliana both are like, this one less so, but the Liliana very much is a tribal planeswalker. And this one's like, hey, do you like your dragon decks? Here you go. Now you can play your dragons ahead of curve. So that is nice. And you can play Arcane Adaptation plus this, and then everything in your deck costs 2 less. Hello? What were we thinking? Then it really, Spencer, is that what you were trying to segue us to? Was to buy Arcane Adaptations from Oasis Games, proud sponsor of Constructive Criticism?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
Let's go on to the next card, though. Mason, why don't you go ahead and read it?
I think it's Vivian Reed is how you would say that. It's 3 green for a Vivian Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. The +1 is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or a land card from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. And then -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Oh, powerful.
Yeah, this card actually seems really good to me for what it's worth. Like the +1 is significantly better than draw a card. And for 5 mana, that's a pretty good rate, especially when it comes into play with effectively 6 loyalty.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of loyalty.
If you ever actually get to use the -3, that's just insane value.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this card. Michael, what do you think?
It seems pretty good. I mean, it's just gonna be, its +1 is basically always gonna be better than draw a card in a base green deck. Destroying creatures with flying is like a pretty huge upside tacked on to like a disenchant effect. And I appreciate that its emblem is actually somewhat reachable in like a board stall situation. It's more so than some of these other cards where like this will effectively protect itself because oftentimes you're gonna have like creatures in play that ramp it out. Then you're gonna just keep getting creatures turn after turn, and even if your opponent can somehow keep pace with that, it like a very definite end of the game kind of.
Well, I
ability
would also
where,
like to point out that even if we're looking at it in context, like people are already citing and crushing canopies in standard right now, right? Because it both deals with enchantments and creatures with flying. Like if you have this card in your main deck, then you don't need to have that sideboard slot for crushing canopy because you already have the answers for cast out and Lyra.
Yeah. I think it's just like it's very reasonable. Like I don't know that it looks super overpowered, but this looks like a card you were absolutely happy to draw in the mid game with basically any green deck.
No, yeah, I super agree. I think this card is very good. Like you're talking about board stalls, it's like how do they ever win if they can't attack in? And then like they play a flyer that might threaten your Vivian, and you're like go, like I don't know. It seems very good.
Yeah,
if the game's stalled up, and even when
both
you're
the
behind,
plus and the minus are good.
yeah, I'm very excited for this card. Spencer, what do you think?
I mean,
Yeah, sorry, Michael.
even if you're a little bit behind, I think you're often going to be able to plus it just because of you'll go to 6. And just being able to like hypothetically, if your opponent has to attack it twice rather than attack you, and you're playing creatures in the meantime, like it's just going to swing the board pretty quickly.
I think this card is a pretty insane one of in basically any green mid-range deck. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't play one of these in the main specifically. It answers everything. It draws you cards. Like, I don't know.
It's bad against mono red. That's probably about it.
Yeah. Like, not that it's amazing, right? Like, we're not saying, play 4 of these, but I just think it just does enough that you just want this somewhere in your deck.
Yeah. Just seems like
I don't know if I
a very
like that
good-
though. Too, from like a design standpoint, having a planeswalker that every green deck that's like mid range you can happily play, that it gives you main deck artifact, enchantment, and flyer hate is kind of annoying.
That's my problem with planeswalkers in general, but that's why I like the tribal walker so much. But yeah, this one is like an extreme case, right? Where there's like,
Yeah, like
why do I not
it
play
very
this again?
specifically punishes interesting strategies, which I don't know that I like.
But creature are best part of Magic attack.
I mean, that's what this one's saying, right?
Yeah.
I think
It actually
it's
kinda
pretty
says
thematic
defend
for
me
green,
and
though.
then you
I would say, like, honestly, it
That's
does
true.
everything that you would expect green to do in general.
That's fair.
Yep.
I guess the green decks are typically really good against those type of decks anyway, so it probably doesn't matter.
And I mean, especially for a core set planeswalker, right? Like it's really nice to actually have a planeswalker that just really embodies everything that green stands for, like destroying artifacts, enchantments,
Sure.
flying creatures, specifically impulsing for lands and creatures. It actually seems really great from a design perspective to
plummet
me.
and commune with nature or whatever wrapped into
Yeah,
a
exactly.
nice little.
Sure, that's fair. All right.
I think at 5, it's not going to be omnipresent enough to be like oppressive.
If it was at 4.
I agree. Yeah, at 4 it would be
Yeah.
like
I think you're just going to have a hard time playing a bunch of these in the same deck. Like the worst thing you can do is draw multiples.
All right, let's move on to Matt's card. Matt, do you want to read this one? Goreclaw, Tezzeret of Qualsissima.
I will do my best. My computer screen is like kind of
Oh,
small.
I can read
but-
it. That's fine. If you're
Okay.
Yeah, so
Why don't you do it?
I just said it today. I'm not going to try again. That's the best shot I'm ever going to have at that. 3 and a green for a legendary creature bear. Side note, first legendary bear in all of Magic, so get excited. Creature spells cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. And when this creature attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn, and it's a 4/3.
Who picked this card?
I did.
Interesting. Tell me why.
Well, I think that anything that allows you to cheat mana is definitely worth at least looking into. I mean, obviously, this creature is vulnerable to removal spells, so it's not going to be like a slam dunk or anything. But it is worth looking into, I think.
What was
there-
the? There's a similar card to this in Fate Reforged.
Shaman of the Great Hunt, is that the card you're thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the one that adds 2 mana of any color?
It could be Shaman of the Great Hunt that I'm thinking of. What does Shaman of the Great Hunt do?
Well, it's like 4 and a red for a haste.
Yeah,
never
Shaman of
hits
the Great
your
Hunt's a little
opponent.
bit better than this card. But it's that's fair. It is similar.
Shaman of Forgotten Ways might be the one you're thinking of.
No, it is Shaman of the Great Hunt I was thinking of.
I don't remember what Shaman of the Great Hunt does.
It's a 4/2 haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a 1. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. And then it has ferocious 2 rug to draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. It reminds me a lot of this card in the way that like it's this thing that wants you to play your deck a certain way and like has these deck building requirements, and that when you do them and you're ahead, it's actually quite insane and it really snowballs. But the problem is that it's like really not that good any other point in the game.
Right. I don't know. I wonder what the actual cost of playing a 4 mana 4/3 in your deck is, but
I don't think it's that big.
it
I
doesn't
think
seem super high.
my bigger issue.
But the problem is that it has to attack.
I mean, I'm not even concerned about
I don't
that
care about
part.
that
Like,
part at all.
yeah,
I'm ignoring the second line.
yeah, I agree.
Oh,
The second line
interesting.
doesn't matter.
Interesting.
The
So you
question
want to
is,
like
like-
double spell after this really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, if you just go like Glorybringer, Rekindling Phoenix, and it's like, oh, that seems bad for me.
Sure. It
And
could be a sweet
I'm
stove in
trying
that
to-
deck.
I mean, it also almost casts a turn 5 Galta by itself, right? If you count the fact that it makes the Galta cost 6 less.
Yeah, well, wait until I cast a Glorybringer into Galta.
Sure.
I can attack with the Goreclaw to pump my team to play the Galta after using the Glorybringer.
Boom.
to a ground
Yeah, I mean,
but I
it's
don't
not-
die in combat.
Glorybringer is pretty
Ah.
great with that. I agree.
Yeah. It's specifically 10 exactly, and
All
I
right,
get to clear a ground block.
I think you
around it.
guys sold me on it.
Maybe it's good. I don't know. It's interesting. I hadn't thought of it with Galta. I love Galta.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean,
More than almost any.
I mostly picked cards that I found interesting more than cards that I think are going to be necessarily all stars. Like, so that's
Really
one that I found
hoping the
interesting.
words that were coming out of your mouth were going to be, I specifically picked cards that were good with Galta.
I did not do that.
All about that Galta.
All right, Mason, what's next?
Well, I want to say I hate this card, by the way, because it's the first legendary bear and does nothing with 2/2s. So it's a terrible design, and they should feel bad.
It makes them cost 2 less. It's a
Yeah, they just have to be really
targeting
big bears.
bear roots.
Nope, bears
Yeah.
are 2/2s for 2. Never forget. All right, Elvish Rejuvenator.
Yeah, but
I'm
a
actually.
legendary bear should be bigger.
That's
'cause it's
fine. This bear
legendary.
can be a 4/3, but it should make 2/2s. It should be like when this creature attacks, all 2-mana 2/2s become the same power as this creature, and they all just grow. Brah. All right, Elvish Rejuvenator. I'm really excited for this card. 2 and a green for a creature elf druid 1/1. When Elvish Rejuvenator enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tap. Put the rest of the cards in the bottom of your library in a random order.
All right, nobody is allowed to talk until Michael gives his opinion of this card.
Why?
Just you gotta go first. Because your unadulterated hatred for ramp, I have to know your opinion first.
Oh, I don't know. It seems okay. Like, it's a better ramp spell than we've gotten in a minute. It's probably like generally better than like a style effect. So, interesting to see for anyone who wants to play this in Tron. Don't. It's bad. I can tell you.
I actually thought of it in Paupertron specifically.
Sure.
That's actually not nothing. The fact that it's a common is big.
Check out
Yeah,
Common
I think
knowledge.
it just looks like a decent. It's just a decent card, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a reasonable fixer, and you get a body as well.
Yeah, I find the fact that it can put non-basics into play pretty powerful. At first I was like really low on this card. I was like, just give me freaking wood elves, and I was just like huffing and puffing around my house.
Did the walls come down?
A little.
Okay.
But I think this card is fine. Like this is one of the cards that I'm very excited about in this set. So because you know me, I love my green ramp cards. So I'll certainly be brewing with this.
So here's the problem I have with this card. I think it was Reed Duke released some math on it that said that if you're playing 24 lands in your deck, it's 90% to hit a land or something like that.
Yeah.
But the problem is the 10% is actually just a disaster, right? Like you just played a 3-mana 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 10% sounds low when you think about it, but like, I mean, you play a lot of games of Magic, right? Like if it's happening to you 1 out of 10 times that you cast this card, that's going to be happening to you a significant amount of the time.
Yeah, I think that you need to play like 27 lands for this card to be playable.
Sure, but then we run into entirely new problems, right? Where we're playing 27 land decks with like 3-mana 1/1s. Like, I don't know. And like also like we're trying to play a ramp deck in theory, right? So like presumably we have other ramp spells or I don't know, maybe we don't. Maybe you have a different vision for it, but if we're playing other ramp spells in 27 lands, that's like, you know, we start getting into like the 35, 36 mana source.
You have to remember
territory pretty
that we're used to right now we're used to playing ramp decks with less lands because the ramp spells are creatures, right? But like back in the days of like Volakut and stuff like that, we played so many lands. Even in decks like Wolf Run, we played 26 lands because we needed to hit 4 mana. We needed to hit 3 mana, and when we did that, we also were taking lands out of our decks, right? So we like if you're going to play other cards that take lands out of your decks and Elvish Rejuvenator, you need even more lands.
So 26 puts you at just under 6% to miss. 27 puts you at about exactly 5% miss. 28 puts you at about just under 4.5% to miss.
Sure. So you're getting some pretty big diminishing returns at some point, but
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely cannot play more than 28 lands.
You can't play more than 27, right? Like there's no way.
Well, you could play it in like Amulet, which would be kind of. I don't know if that is actually good enough, but.
And did you say an amulet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does sound kind of good.
I mean, it's probably not good, but that's probably where I would be most interested in finding specific lands.
I would say the other thing about this card when we're talking about a ramp deck is that like it does like buy you some time because it can block, and if you're like working towards I don't know There was like a Genesis Hydra card. We could play a lot of lands, like Spencer is saying, right? Like if there's some big X spell you want to play that like
Man,
value.
Genesis Hydra, can we get that back?
That card was good. That's my hot take. Yeah, I like this card. I don't think it's like broken or anything, but I think it will probably see play. And it's sweet. And I thought it was basic lands up until about 2 days ago. So
I wish it was look at the top 7. I think that would be sweet.
it would just like never miss. There'd be so many cards.
It would certainly increase the percentage a lot if it was 7.
Yeah, you're playing like a 23 land deck, and you're like 90 billion% to hit. So much.
90
So many
billion.
percentage. All right, what's next?
We have your card, Spencer. Pulaka Worm.
Green, green, green. 4, 7, 7. Trample. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 7 life, and when it dies, you draw a card. How many Pulaka Worm decks are on StarCityGames.com when you search for it in Standard? Anyone know?
0. It's not in Standard right now. Trick question.
No. In its history.
One. But
Yeah, there's probably some nonsense reanimator deck that had Pulaka Worms in it or something.
Nope. In Standard, there are... Matt Kling is literally creating this card saw Standard play. There are 101 decks.
Okay.
It won. It was in Rug D-Force. It was in Birthing Pod. It was in Titan Ramp. It was in Eldrazi Green. It was in
It sounds completely awful in all those decks. I think
Turboland. It was in. It was in. Do you want to keep going? It was in blue green polymorph. That deck's just bad.
So hold on. I assume it was in the sideboard of these decks.
Pulaka Worm?
I assume it was in the sideboard of these decks because the mono red deck at the time was basically a burn deck and actually only had a finite amount of damage that it could deal. So like gaining 7 life was actually equivalent to drawing 3 cards, or
It was in all of the summoning trap decks.
Did they polymorph into Pulaka Worm?
I mean, I guess they would, right? In
Polymorph
theory, I mean,
target I've ever heard of.
it's obviously sideboarded. They were
It
probably
is
morphing into Emrakul.
So
That's the way-
only 2 of these decks ever played this card main deck. Just to be clear, I just wanted to troll Matt Kling. So the only decks that actually main decked it were the different Eldrazi decks. It could be a 2 of in that depending on the format. Until they started just all playing Wormcoil Engine. So with that being said, Matt, you ready to eat your words?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Well, eat them. I just told you there's 101 decks with it in it.
Oh, I see. I'm not eating my words about that. I
thought
thought we
this
were
was
talking about the validity of this card in any standard format.
Yeah, do you guys want to make a bet about this card in the Standard format right now on the cast, and we'll check in 2 years?
Yeah,
2 years.
I mean, it's like a year and a half technically.
I think
dinner.
that this card will 5-0 a league within first. What is happening?
Your bar is so high, Spencer. You're like, this card's gonna 5-0 a Moto league.
What do you want me to bet? And I'll tell you tell me what you want to bet, and I'll tell you what the bet is.
I don't want to bet about it. I don't know. Let's say it top eight's a GP.
I'll just put one of
It
them
has
on
to
the
be-
sideboard of my mono red deck, and
exactly.
5-0 a week.
It has to be a GP or a Pro Tour.
Yeah, I guess how high are you on this card, Spencer? And that should gauge my level of bet.
I think that so don't get me wrong, creatures have gotten very good, but this card was competing with some of the best ramp creatures of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. And I think that this card, in a world of Hour of Promise, Hour of Promise green decks really have been forced to play these horrible 7-mana cards to 5-0 leagues. And I think that this is just exactly what they need.
So
You do get
let's
to go.
let's
Oh, sorry.
put this into. So I mean, if you're saying that this card might see sideboard play, it's it's possible. But honestly, you're just never ever being a Teferi with this card, right? It's just not going to happen.
All right.
Yeah,
I will break ramp this time. It will happen this time.
I will say Elf and Hour Promise into this is not the worst. Right?
Anything in that promise to this. The thing is it's not that big of a cost to you if they have to spend their turn to kill this, which is what they have to do right now, right? So if you ramp into this and they spend their turn to kill it, right? The only downside that I really see is that the 2 4-mana spells that kill it exile it right now.
Yeah.
and then you don't get to draw the card. But outside of that, it seems very good to me.
I'm scared they're gonna like Essence Scatter it, then untap with trigger on the stack for Scarab God, buy it back, gain 7 life, scry your card. Like that's my main fear.
Boom.
I don't know. I live in fear of Scarab God forever. But I do think this card could see some play, like especially rotation. Like it's not like it's a bad creature. I just like to give Spence a hard time.
I don't want to make a bet, but I think this card will see play.
Fun.
And I personally, as somebody who loves rampy green decks, am really excited for it. Like, I never even played Eldrazi Green, and like I would give anything to have Eldrazi Green at my disposal right now.
Do you like this card more than Daragaz if you were going to ramp into something?
Is Daragaz the Jund one? Which one is Daragaz?
Yeah, it's the Jund 7/7 flying haste 7.
Wait, it's not the Jund one.
It is.
Where?
It's not in this set.
Dominaria.
If you're looking in this set,
Yeah, it's from Dominaria.
it's from Dominaria.
I think that card's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wouldn't play Daragaz either. But I'm saying, why? What makes you like this card more than that?
Because this card actually stabilizes you.
So specifically, if you're getting beaten down, you like this card more?
Yeah. I think this card is good in every matchup, which is not true of that card.
Michael Hinderocker, lover of ramp. What do you think?
I think Pelagorum sucks.
I knew it.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. I don't know. The only other big downside is if you don't draw Hour, it's gonna be really hard to play, right?
I don't know. I just want more for 7 mana.
What if it gained you 14 life?
Aren't liberated for 7 mana every
If it
time.
gained me 70 life, then I would consider it.
Don't lie,
What?
you'd play it.
So
70 life
many.
is so much life.
I think 70 is
All right, let's
about
move on to the next card.
All
So
right.
Michael.
Oh, this is the card I put on the list. Leonin War Leader is 2 white.
Sorry, Mason, we can't hear you anymore.
Wait.
Michael, why don't you read the next card?
I'll just hang up on Spencer. He's clearly lagging. Leonin War Leader is a 2 white cat soldier 4/4 that whenever Leonin War Leader attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. Meow. Get in there.
Yeah.
You call it Rimaz's grandpa? Or grandma? I can't tell. I can't tell if it's a male or female cat.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It kind of looks a little masculine, but I'm not exactly sure.
Cats usually look masculine
I don't know.
No.
It seems like cats
or
are-
feminine?
All right.
No,
Well,
it's a
hey,
cat.
here's the
It's hard to
play.
say.
We do this. We go Regal Caracol. We attack. Boom. 5/5 with 2 2/2s. This card's probably fine though, right? Like
I don't know that
seriously.
you actually need the Regal Caracal. I think this card is probably fine on its
Oh,
Yeah.
right? How greedy!
I just love Regal Caracol, so I always try and
Just
play it.
decided
But this
you
card
don't
is
want to
good.
play like mostly. You wanted to take some of the good cards out of your deck, give your opponents a chance. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Like my opponents can never beat this card, but if I put some more unplayable ones in my deck, they might have a chance. Sacred Cat, am I right? So
Yeah, and Sacred Cat doesn't even have any synergy.
it attacks and it's a cat.
I don't know. This card seems fine. Like, it's probably okay against mono red. It has 4 toughness, so I like that.
I mean, this card does seem fine, but Hero of Bladehold it's not. This card doesn't
it's a high
scale
standard though. I mean,
nearly as well as Hero
Bladehold's
Bladehold.
pretty great.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
say
agree.
I've never played with that card outside of Cube. Was that card like in? So Spencer's mic's not working, so he's trying to talk. But
Have you ever played Hero of Bladehold in Cube before?
yeah, it's great.
It's
in
pretty
Cube.
great in Cube.
Yeah,
So now imagine you could play a lot of them, and imagine your deck was like built around making that work.
And also imagine that most of the cards you're playing against are a lot worse than the cards you're playing against in like Vintage Cube or whatever.
Your opponent like never goes like Mox, Recall. You know, they never do anything really sweet. They just play guys.
it's really not.
Sometimes
working,
your
Spencer.
opponents were trying to cast like Primeval Titans and stuff, and that was a mistake.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the idea of this card standard a lot. I'm just curious. I don't know. I can't think of a deck with it yet. Like that I want to play, or I don't know.
I don't think this card takes very much synergy. Like,
Yeah, it's just a
I
good
think
card.
the best thing about this card is that you could just play it as a 4/4, and if you untap with it, like, and have any sort of removal spell to go along with it to pair it with, it's just going to be very, very good. I think the best thing about this card, and the best thing about most standard cards that are good, is that they don't ask a lot of you to play them.
Yeah, I think this card's just good.
Yeah.
And I agree that it's not Hero Blade Hold, right? Like Hero Blade Hold was 7, then 11, then you were dead.
Yeah, that was the
it
thing about
creates-
Hero.
it creates a
It just
huge
scaled
swing.
so insanely, right? Like it was like every turn was so much more damage than the turn before.
So it's true that it's more damage, but this card, if you can't kill both cats for free, you're going to lose every time.
I agree.
What?
I mean, that being said, we do have a pretty great way to do that in current standard.
Whirly boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, you have to have it now.
And that's
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm gonna be excited to play with this one.
all I'm saying is, if you like attack with this, then you attack with it again. Maybe your opponent hasn't taken 100 or whatever they take with Hero Blade Hold, but if you have a bunch of like lifelink tokens that are staying around, it seems pretty great.
Yeah, I think against Mono Red, it's going to be probably as good as Hero Blade Hold would have been, because of the fact that they have lifelink, it might even be a little bit better than that. But I think against other strategies, like if we face any kind of a ramp deck or whatever, it's going to be possibly slightly too slow.
But it clocks them when they're trying to play Palaka Worm, though.
Does it? I'm gonna play my Block Worm while you play this.
No, I'm gonna play this first. I'm on
Spencer's
the play.
always on curve every time with the ramp spells. Don't worry about it.
Oh. I
Spell
didn't think.
the cast out.
Well,
I obviously I won't have a Block Worm in play yet, but
I think this card looks pretty reasonable. I'm not like, I don't think it's like crazy broken or anything. It's just like it's a guy that is generally going to be great. I mean, that doesn't sound like a really hard condition to fulfill.
oh,
Yeah,
it's not
I think
legendary
so.
either. Oh, I thought it was.
all right. Why don't you read the next card?
Dragon's Horde. It's a 3-mana artifact. When a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on Dragon's Horde. You can remove a gold counter from Dragon's Horde to draw a card, or you can tap it to add a mana of any color. Spencer, you put this card on the list. What do you think?
Yeah, this card kind of surprises me that they would because it's the kind of card that if they print the right number of things that this cares about, it would be really annoying. So we've had a couple of Dragons decks in the past that would have probably happily played this. Different monster decks in history would have played this. So I don't think it's insane, but I'm a little surprised about it because it ramps you and gains you card advantage if it's good, which I don't really like as from a design standpoint, but it might be enough to get you to play something like this in a mid-rangey deck with 8 to 10 dragons in it.
That's fair. It's it's a ramp spell and replaces itself.
Yeah, I think ramping 3 to 5 has generally been underwhelming.
Yeah, I think that really? Here's the recent sets, right? Like it was literally a huge part of Zendikar standard.
That is forever ago.
Right, when standard was more powerful.
What did we do in Zendikar that was 3 to 5? We had Cultivate, right? But that was not exactly.
Oh, I thought you meant Battle for Zendikar.
They did it in Innistrad standard too for a second, but it was 1 to 3 to 5 specifically.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't think this card will see play, but it was one that interests me because if we come into Ravnica and get a bunch of red dragons, this could fit into some blue-red mid-range deck. I don't know.
I mean, it certainly seems like they're trying to plug the dragon theme, and I'm curious if that does mean that we're going to get dragons in future sets.
Right.
So
it's not for nothing. It does synergize well with Glorybringer specifically, right? Like you play this on 3, Glorybringer on 4, and then get a gold counter.
Yeah, and then you can kind of max out on it too with Sarkhan if there's a surplus of dragons, right?
Sure.
The only thing I really like about this card is that if you draw multiples, it's actually kind of sweet. Where most ramp cards are pretty awful to draw in multiples. This one
that's
is
true because if
kind
you
of great in
actually
multiples.
draw a dragon with 2 in play, you actually get to draw 2 cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you can just you can turn a top decked dragon into a whole bunch of cards in the really late game potentially, and that's
My
kind of
actual
powerful.
worry for the card though is that it costs the same amount as Sarkhan. So unless you want, a lot of this level of effect from what could be considered pretty similar cards, I just don't know that this will be the one that sees play.
See, I would think this would see play over Sarkin almost because the 1 mana is
Interesting.
a mana of any color, and it's not just for dragons, so you can cast other spells as well, and it can't get attacked down like your Sarkin can. So like I think your Sarkin's gonna get killed. I mean, like I'm thinking about in current standard, right? So maybe in a future standard it's not as low to the ground, but like in a current standard your Sarkin's gonna die all the time, and in this standard you
It
get
probably
to play
depends on like 5 versus 6s.
That's true. Yeah, because I guess getting to play like one of those new Elder Dragons would be a lot
Yeah,
better.
I mean 3 to 6 is like a lot better than 3 to 5.
Yeah, that's true. I just keep
That's
thinking
true.
Glorybringer's the
Hypothetical.
dragon I want to play. That's the main thing.
Sure, but I mean that's only for 3 months or whatever, and then
I mean, even beyond that, it's sometimes Glorybringer and something else, right? Like, even if it's just a Land of War Elves, that can create advantage.
sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep, Man of any color, Ravnica, gold set. Next set.
Well, they both produce mana of any color.
No, but one's only for dragons. This is any card.
I know. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to pitch us on the new version of Sarkin again. Heroic Reinforcements is the next card. It's 2 red white for a sorcery. Create 2 white 1/1 creature soldier tokens onto the battlefield. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste.
This card seems really good to me. I'm the only one that has said anything about it. Is this card bad? Am I just stupid?
I mean, I looked at it and it was interesting to me. I don't know if it's good. I mean, if it was an instant, I would be a lot more into it.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Because you could leave tokens back and pump.
Well, because you could use it as an ambush, right? Like, making 2/2/2s at instant speed to like block their creatures is actually pretty good.
Well, you can, sure, but the +1/+1 seem. Because they would still get +1/+1. Got it.
And block.
Right.
Yeah, it would just be like a nice combat trick, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It
It's
seems
okay.
very powerful to me, like for what looks like a throwaway card, if you know what I mean.
I could
It's
see it being
it's
good.
interesting.
It takes a specific deck, right? Like, I feel biased against red-white, but I think that's mostly just because the red and white cards haven't really played that well together recently. So it's kind of powerful. Like, if my real issue is this, it seems really hard to play any of these. Like, this really wants like Legion's Landing or like a bunch of like really go wide stuff. And it's so hard to do that with Goblin Chainwhirler right now.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If it was a sorcery or an instant, right? It's like
Yeah, right, I
you
was
have
just gonna say.
insulation.
You could actually use it to save creatures. That would be kind of cute.
I wonder
right.
if it started off as an instant and then like the Future League thought it was too good as an instant. Because it feels like there have been a lot of cards like this in the past that are instant.
Yeah, I mean, Heroic Reinforcements, even like the name is, it really seems like it should be an instant.
Yeah, they should change the flavor text to Cries of Anguish slowly spurred.
Sure.
Yeah. Michael, you see all the lines, buddy. Spencer, is there anything else you want to say about this card? All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. We got a lot of cards to talk about still. We have Vivian's Invocation. It's 5 green for a sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest of them at the bottom of your library in a random order. When a creature is put on the battlefield this way, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. Spencer, you put this card on the list. And your mic's not working again. It's a good thing I was on tonight in order to save all this. I'm going to guess that we can play this in a ramp deck, and it's another one of our big hits, and it helps us with consistency and helps us stabilize the board. Like, if we did have, like, a Palaka Worm as, like, a one-of, and we had some dragons or something, like, you went Rejuvenator and Hour into this, it's a good way to stabilize, right? Like, you put your big 6/6 dragon onto play and then kill their Glorybringer or whatever. That's my
So
guess.
something
though. Okay.
something that this does really well is it lets your deck stay super threat dense. It kind of reminds me of like Summoning Trap or Green Sun Zenith in those style of decks that played those cards. It's really expensive, but like I said, the thing that they want us to be ramping with right now is Hour of Promise, so it makes sense of why the mana cost is what it is. Obviously, it'd be way better at 6, but I still think the card is. We've seen these cards see play, and I don't see why this one would be any different.
Wasn't there another 6 mana version of this that saw play semi recently? It was in like
See the Unwritten.
yeah, See
Yeah.
the Unwritten. That's the one.
Yep. That one could
Yeah.
grab 2 cards though, so that one was
Sure.
like really good.
Yeah.
Well, the fighting thing though is kind of nice. Like
It's kind of like
Yeah.
card advantage in the same
being
way.
able to kill,
Yeah.
just
One-
being able
one
to
thing
kill
that
creatures or whatever, flyers.
Yeah, one thing that I
especially.
think this card does really well in those decks that it could do is like it allows you to like it makes paying 7 mana for something like a I don't know, like a 5/5. It's like, oh, okay, that was like a fair deal. It like killed their best creature, and now I have really swung the board. But then when you get to like get one of your best creatures, it's like, like a payday. I think this card's way better than Pelakka Worm, to be fair. I think this is actually the real payoff.
Yeah, no, you. I'm just saying, like, you get to hit your Pelakka Worm with this. Like,
You do.
It's
I
like
mean, it
you play
makes
2
Pelakka
Pelakka
Worms
Worms
real
with
good.
one. Yeah.
And it also lets you play less Pelakka Worm.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, this is a virtual
I
copy of
Really
all
the
the
best
cards.
part of it.
It lets you play less block worms.
You might even get to play no Pelakka.
That's so
Worms,
powerful.
even in your sideboard.
How great is it going to be, though, if Pelakka Worm's, like, busted in this standard format? That'd be so good.
Pelakka
Just-
Worm is busted in this standard format. I've completely lost track of what anything that's.
Times are changing, Michael, all the time.
So I am going to jump off the rest of this podcast. I'm not sure what's wrong. I just want to thank Mason for being on. Thank all the listeners. And I'll see you guys next week. I can't fix my audio issues. We're super sorry, but we'll make sure that we fix them by next week.
Bye, Spencer. All right, if you're watching the video portion of this podcast, everything's about to look crazy, and I can't fix it because we're mid-show, so get used to it. All right, on to the next card. Are you guys ready for Liliana's contract? We have
Sure.
3 black for an enchantment. When Liliana's contract enters the battlefield, draw 4 cards, and you lose 4 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 more demons with different names, you win the game. Was it you, Matt, that put this on there as I try and
Yeah, it
save
was.
this? All right. What do you like about this card besides drawing 4 cards?
Yeah, that's most of what I like about this card. I think that 4 cards for 5 mana is actually a pretty good rate. If the format becomes slower and grindier, I think that's just powerful all on its own.
Mhm.
As far as
Yeah.
the 4 demons clause, I mean, I looked into it, and most of the demons in this format are like 100 mana, so it's probably not going to come up very often.
But what if we
Yeah,
played
but
Arcane
Tidings is
Adaptation?
pretty great.
What's that?
But Tidings is pretty great.
Yeah, exactly, right. I
Played
think that's
Tidings a bunch of times. And that card was insane.
right.
That's the blue, like 6 mana draw 4?
It's
Blue 3 draw 4 sorcery.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
that
thinking of it.
card was so. Yeah, I mean, I think if you can afford to pay the 4 life, this card is generally going to be pretty great.
right. I agree. And I mean, who knows? Like in the future, this demons thing might actually come up. They have currently Baleful Amnet is the only like reasonably costed demon that I can think of.
There's the new one. It's like a 4 mana 6/6. I mean, it's not great, but when it enters the battlefield, you just sacrifice a creature for it. But I mean, like,
I
that's,
like your arcane
For sure.
adaptation idea, Mason.
yeah, thank
Just
you.
any 4 creatures, slam it.
Man,
Yeah.
so good.
That's the Saffron Olive original right there, buddy. Against the odds, coming to a goldfish near you. It's just the truth. Like, he is going to do
I'm
that.
sure
I'm
you're
sure.
not wrong.
All right. Well, I think I've saved this. Boom. Look at that. We're all on screen now. What a great time to be alive. All right. Yeah, I like this card. It's pretty cool. Like, you could sideboard this card, I guess. Like, if you wanted to have, like, a draw spell in your black zombie low creature, like, low CMC deck that plays Liliana. Boom. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the thing is, if there's any way to like for permanence, or anything that benefits from different card types or something along those lines, like this is the kind of card that could have been really powerful if Delirium was a mechanic, and occasionally just stellar cards could exist that could benefit like from you having enchantments or things like that. Like, there's not really any downside to this being an enchantment versus like a sorcery, even if we're just looking as a strict like pay 5 draw 4. So there's always some chance that the type will be relevant.
Well, here's something interesting too. When they were testing this card at Wizards, they probably actually had Felidar Guardian in standard.
Oh, yeah. Boom.
I don't know that it was good though. Or they did a bunch of last minute changes to Felidar Guardian that actually made it insane instead of.
This
Kinda
is
bad,
actually
but
why it got the Blinks of Healy. Originally, it couldn't do a permanent, and they were like, "Well, we really want our Liliana's contract deck to work." So they're like, "Oh, let's make it a permanent. Like, we might have missed something else that's cool." And here we are. Here we are. Yeah, this card's cool.
That
I like it.
sounds like an unlikely story, but I appreciate it.
What do you think is more unlikely, that story or me winning a Pro Tour with an arcane adaptation in Liliana's contract deck?
The second one I like a lot.
Equal.
All right, that's fair. I will say,
0.
yeah, I don't like this art. That's all I'm gonna say. Moving on. They could have been better. There's a lot of cards with Liliana in our contract, and this one, no tattoos, no nothing.
Sure.
Cleansing Nova is 3 white for a sorcery. You choose one. You either destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. This is a pretty sweet card. Matt, what do you think about this one? I think it was on your list.
It wasn't, but it's a nice little adaptation on Fumigate. They clearly made it. They made it pretty clear that 5 mana wraths are mostly what they're into. Like even Phyrexian Scriptures is mostly a 5 mana wrath. It's like 4 mana suspend 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they generally try to give us some upside with the 5 mana wraths, and this one's actually not a bad one. I think that destroying all artifacts or enchantments is going to be pretty great some amount of the time.
Well, and now, the really sweet thing about this card? Think about how well it lines up against Phyrexian Scriptures. They play an enchantment that's going to wrath your board and turns one of their creatures into an artifact.
So good.
This is like the Phyrexian Scriptures hate card.
Oh, that's such good flavor
no,
too, because it's cleansing the Phyrexians. Michael, are you secretly a flavor judge? You've been on top of it tonight.
Yeah.
Are you a platinum flavor
Thank
judge?
you. Well, I don't know if that's a thing. There aren't any benefits to it if I am, but I think that's pretty great for this. I do appreciate that it is a Phyrexian Scriptures hate card. All that being said, I like that this one is like a little bit more. I like having some modes on cards like this. I think like this is the kind of thing that could improve blue-white mirrors slightly, just because it actually can have text in a matchup. And I think one of the worst things about blue-white right now is that it's mostly just who draws less white cards. So being able to like play a card like this where maybe it can destroy some of their cast outs or something similar, I think just having like cards that have some level of applicability in multiple matchups is a really good route for as like I really like that as like a side benefit. Here's what you get for paying 5 for a Wrath of God.
Yeah. It's also it's
I like having
interesting
it
in control
in
mirrors
just a
too.
little better. Yeah, that's exactly it. I really like that. Like you can play this out of blue-white to destroy creatures, but also for control mirrors. You can also play it out of like mid-range decks against blue-white without it being completely embarrassing.
Yeah, you're like cast out your Teferi. You're like, cool. I want my Teferi back. Here we go.
Yeah, no, I think that like it's a nice take on the 5 mana Wrath.
Dude, you've blown my mind though, being a flavor like Platinum Pro. Like, think about this card. Like, all the bad guys in Magic are like basically artifacts or colorless in some way because Watsy hates colorless things. So, jeez. Like,
Pro Tour Eldrazi, never forget.
Yeah,
And this doesn't do anything against Eldrazi.
that's true. But the like Mirrodin, like the bad guys there, which are the Phyrexians still, it gets them. Listen, when the Phyrexians attack Ravnica in the third set, remember this cleansing over. Remember Platinum Flavor Judge, Michael Hinderocker. You know what is really sweet though, flavor wise, Michael? That's Nico Bolas the Ravager. It is 4 mana for. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 1 Grixis, 4 mana. Sorry, 4/4 dragon. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and then you can pay 4 in Grixis and exile Nico Bolas the Ravager, then return to the battlefield transformed under his controller's control. Activate this ability only when you can cast a sorcery. So you can't do it at instant speed like you could as Jace Friend's Prodigy. But on the backside, you get Nico Bolas the Arisen, who looks just like Squee the Goblin. Starts with 7 loyalty. You get +2 to draw 2 cards. You can -3 Nico Bolas the Arisen, deals 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker. -4, put target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then -12, exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. Michael, what do you think with this card?
Cool story. We were talking about on the drive to Las Vegas that they should print a card called 37 mana Nicol Bolas, and it mostly did this. So
Yeah, so we specifically were looking for a card that was ultimate win the game. And what we came up with was 37 mana Nicol Bolas. And then, they basically printed it, so forever this will be codenamed 37 mana Nicol Bolas.
I like it.
And this card is also great. Like, the card is really sweet in that the front side is just providing, like, I think a 4/4 flying for 4 with a reasonable ETB is just good. And obviously, if he flips, like, it's completely absurd.
And it doesn't actually ask that much of you to actually flip it, right? Like eventually you're going to have 7 mana in play,
Right.
and maybe
No,
you have something
it's
better to
just
do with it, but
continue to
not
play Magic.
that much better. Yeah.
Can it really be better than this? I mean, what do
Well,
you
I
have
mean,
to
it
do
can
with,
be it can be better than that if you believe that your opponent might have a removal spell, right? Like,
Exactly. No, but this card, like, me or die.
yeah,
Those
no,
are the
I
options.
mean, once you flip into Nicol Bolas, the broken side, like it's
The
gonna be,
Arisen.
yeah, it's gonna be the end of the game. I
Yep.
don't anticipate very many people playing against that Nicol Bolas because they already didn't have the removal spell to kill your Nicol Bolas the dragon. So
Yeah. This thing flips and it's the end of the game. I mean, like the idea of divination being a +2 is just good luck with this.
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't really
Like-
need an ultimate because like the Nicol Bolas the Ravager has the ultimate of pay 7 mana and you have a planeswalker that can't possibly lose a game.
Yeah. No, this card is absurd.
And you can minus this guy to get back the other. Like if you like, let's say they killed your first Nico Bolas and constructed, right? Like they're different card names, right? So you can have them both on the board.
Yeah, it's true. They chain very well into each other.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah, I mean, the only way you're ever going to lose with this card is like
you were dead on
being
board.
able to attack. Yes, exactly. In kind of slower mid-range matchup, this card flipping is the end of the game because it's already going to make them discard. It'll probably hit them for some damage, and then you're going to draw 2. So it's like a an actual 6 for 1 or whatever. by the
Well, and
time,
that's like
even if
worst
you're,
case
like-
scenario too, right? Like if you if you look at the mana advantage that the actual reanimation generates a lot of times, and just getting just getting like, I mean, even if you're not reanimating a creature, like if you're reanimating a planeswalker, it's like actually insane, right? Like you're like, okay, Nicol Bolas, flip, reanimate Liliana, get back Nicol Bolas, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, or just reanimate another copy of itself, and your opponent is,
Well, yeah, I mean,
discarding another card, and now if you had 7 mana last turn, you have to get it just gets out of control.
right.
It's also like weirdly
To me-
relevant that's a dragon too, right? Like, cause like Glorybringer would be like one of the ways to stop it on curve, and you just can't.
Right,
This is
yeah,
like a-
Glorybringer can't hit dragons.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Michael? Sorry,
This
I
card
interrupted
just
you.
seems great. This card just seems great, like kind of straight up. Like this is another card where I feel like it's really not asking that much of you. Like if you can flip it, great. But if you just cast it on curve, it's pretty great.
I mean, obviously the
Really
cost
not,
of this card is the fact that it actually costs Grixis mana. Like that's pretty specific.
So it's specific to cast, but if you can play a deck that can cast it, it's not asking you to do a lot in the game state. And I think that like where generally people get too excited about cards, like my biggest issue with something like Sarkhan is that it's asking you to do a lot in terms of building your deck very specifically, having very specific cards in your hand after you cast it, setting up specific board states where it's good. This card, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite of that, right? We're just like, we're going to cast it. Our worst case scenario is like a 4/4 2-for-1. If you're playing a deck that's able to cast this card, it's going to be great.
Right.
You don't really have to do any more work than that. If you ever hit 7 mana, your opponent loses.
And very good. All right, let's move on to the next card. I think we spent enough time talking about the Bolas. Let's talk about some more exciting cards for the Magic. And we got Supreme Phantom. It's 1 in a blue for a spirit. It is flying. Other spirits you control get +1/+1, and it's a 1/3. Michael, Banned Spirits, Modern. What do you think?
I think this is a Matt special, but this might let us get back to playing some Mausoleum Wanderers, and I'm very into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I this is actually the card I'm the most excited about in this set. A 2-mana Lord for spirits is actually kind of absurd. Like, I mean, if you can imagine any of the games where you actually curve Mausoleum Wanderer into this, like, first of all, it's going to be attacking for 3, so it's a flying wild Nacatl on that turn, and then every turn after that, it's a spell pierce.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
the turn where you follow this up with like Drogskull Captain or a 3/4 Spell Queller or whatever, like
Right. This also
Yeah,
puts
yeah.
on curve spell quellers out of Lightning Bolt range and Lightning Helix. Like, it just seems kind of absurd.
Yeah, and it like the second one puts itself out of the bolt range too, which is something like a lot
Right.
of
or a
lords can't do.
Drogskull Captain, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, we played some Spirit decks before, and they were like already close to good enough. This card is very good.
That streamer, I think it's Hellcat MTG. She plays a lot of spirits, and she seems very excited about this card. So Yeah, I'm excited to see what this card does. I hope the Hinderrocker can return to streaming. Maybe Matt will join him. We'll see some more spirits. Last time I saw you stream, Michael, you were on spirits.
Is that true? Was it great?
It wasn't great. I don't think you played the next event. I think you switched decks.
Did I not play it at a Pro Tour? I'm pretty sure I basically played Spirits at a Pro Tour.
You did basically play.
Oh,
Spirits
did you play it at the
for
Pro Tour? Oh, okay. I thought you didn't.
That's
There you
pretty
go.
good.
Boom.
I lost all my good matchups and won all my bad ones. It was an interesting event.
Sounds like modern. All right. Well, I'm excited to see this card of their spirits too. There aren't enough spirits in standard to make this matter, right? They're not like weird ones we're forgetting.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Not yet.
But after Bolas kills everyone in Ravnica, they'll all be spirits. And then,
Sure.
now we're talking. Spoilers.
Yeah, Spirit Chain Whirler. Ooh.
When this enters the battle, you'll deal 1 damage to everything. Ooh. All right.
Yeah.
Let's-
It makes even more spirits. It's like Spirit Recruiter.
Let's not get me too excited, Michael. All right, let's talk about Graveyard Marshal. This card's pretty exciting. It's black for a zombie soldier 3/2, which is a weird creature type. You can pay 2 and a black and exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a 2/2 tap zombie creature token. This seems really good. Matt, I think this was on your list.
Yeah, it was. So I definitely think that first of all, zombies have been pushed pretty hard in this set. So having a card that actually rewards you for playing, not necessarily zombies, but it does reward you for playing a graveyard centric deck, and also, it makes zombies so anything you have that pumps zombies is going to affect this.
Mhm.
I feel like this card rewards you a lot just for playing Magic. Like,
But yeah, honestly, just playing a 3/2 for 2 is also pretty great, and your creatures are going to die at some point, right? So
yeah, it like if this card wasn't black, it would be absurd.
sure, if it was just actually like
I think like 1 in the black, right? Like they're trying to force you to play somewhat of like a constrained mana base to actually play it on curve regularly. And I think that's probably a good decision because I think that like this card is kind of fun and cool if it's like in a zombie deck. I think this card is really unfun if we're just playing it in like all kinds of sort of aggressive decks.
sure, if it's just
kinda
it's the new Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just like wrath your opponent, and then they untap and play this and like make a 2/2 on your end step, and you're like, okay, I'm getting attacked for 5, and next turn they can do it twice more.
Right.
But, like it's a little too much army in a can if it isn't somewhat hard to cast. So I think this is kind of a cool card. I'm really curious to see how good this ends up being because obviously a 3/2 for 2 is just solid. Like that's on par for what you'd expect. And the ability is really good.
Yeah, I agree. The floor is pretty high. Like honestly, just a 3/2 for 2, like we said, is quite solid. Obviously we've seen Scrap Heap Scrounger see plenty of play, and that one, I mean, it has a downside of can't block, which is almost never ends up being a downside if you're in the market for 2 mana 3/2s. But
Works
But
great
it
with
sort of
vanilla
reminds me
Liliana,
of
too.
that in that you don't have to work very hard to enable it, right? I don't think you need to be putting like a ton of stuff in your graveyard for this card to be totally reasonable.
right.
Which I think
Like-
is like a good thing for listeners too, right? Like if you're looking at a card that you're wanting to build your deck around, like how much work do you have to put into it? Like this one, it says play other creatures and attack.
Well, it's actually, now that we're talking about Scrap Heap Scrounger, it is interesting that they kind of fight with each other a little bit, right? Because they both want you to exile creatures from your graveyard.
It's true, but they also won't spend their lives together, right?
They won't what? Oh
They
yeah,
won't
yeah.
spend
Certainly,
most of their-
Scrounger is going to rotate fairly soon. So
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting card. And in general, I think a lot of the most powerful cards are the ones that don't have big deck building requirements. Like if a card is asking a lot, it really has to be giving a lot. And I think one of the best things about this card is that it looks pretty decent at basically every stage of the game, and you certainly are not required to build your deck around it.
Yeah,
right.
it definitely seems pushed. Like they could have this card easily could have been the exact same thing except exile a zombie creature to get the zombie, and they didn't do that. So I'm just saying though, Matt. Before I move on to the next
My
card,
guess is that that's for like flavor purposes more than anything, right? Because like exiling a zombie to make a zombie doesn't really.
yeah, that's true. I could spin that where the zombies never die, but you're right. That's fair. I am gonna say though, I play my Liliana 4. I take up. I get some zombies. I'll bring them all back because they're all so cheap because my deck's so great. Moving on, we have Oh, it's not loading up because we added them mid-thing. Hang on. I gotta fix it real quick. I believe it's the Leonin Cat is the next one.
Leonin Vanguard.
Uh,
And Leonin Vanguard
Yep.
is a 1/1 for a white that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, Leonin Vanguard gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you gain 1 life.
boom. So powerful.
This was a Mason special, so I need to hear your reasoning as to
This was
why
not
it's
me.
good.
Not me. This was Spencer.
Was it not?
Spencer said he
Interesting.
went for this one. Yeah. Now I'll defend it because it works perfectly with my cat tribal deck that y'all just don't see the truth on. Turn 1 this. Turn 2 Adorned Pouncer. Turn 3 Pride Sovereign. Turn 4 Hero of Cathold. Turn 5 Regal Caracol. Slam. Slam. No, I wanted to talk. The reason I know why you're talking about it because I want to talk about the life gain cards because there are a lot of weird life gain cards. This isn't the worst card though, right? Like, if you're wanting a white go wide strategy, we've talked about some cards that are like that in this set so far. This card rewards you for going wide, right? Like, you play some token making cards, you attack with this, gets a little bit bigger, you gain a little bit of life. It's not the worst card ever.
It's not the worst. I do wonder why it's not a 3/3 for 1 because they've done it so many times now. Like Wild Nacatl is just pretty commonplace for, whatever kind of stipulation they decide on. So I'm surprised that it's only a 2/2, even when you actually manage to trigger the pseudo battalion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's asking you to make the life gain useful specifically.
Right.
Pride Sovereign.
Which is sort of the second +1/+1, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
definitely
it gives your Johnny's Pride Mate +1/+1.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's something else either that doesn't exist or that I can't think of off the top of my head. But they're asking you to get value out of that specifically.
I think they did actually print a card in this set that whenever you gain life, your opponent loses 1 life. I don't know if it's like actually playable though.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely like white has a sub theme in M19 of like gain life. There's like the enchantment that's the Soul Sister. There's Pride Sovereign, and this does work well with Pride Sovereign in multiples too, right? Like if you have 2 of
You
these.
mean the Johnny's Pride Mate?
I'm sorry, Johnny's
So-
Pride Mate. I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say I still don't know what Pride Sovereign does. I think it's
Pride
it's a
Sovereign
green
is a
white.
card, but it's not a one.
Is
It's
Pride
green
Sovereign the
with a
5
white
mana one or the
activated
2 mana
state.
one?
It's the 3
It's-
mana
it's the
green
3
that you
mana one.
exert and make 2 cats, and it gets
Right.
bigger for all your cats.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I had it a lot unlimited. But no, I'm sorry. It is a Johnny's Pride Mate is the card I'm trying to think of. Where it's like if you have 2 of these and a Pride Mate, it's like a 4/4 Pride Mate or whatever. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It is weird that this card doesn't also get bigger, but maybe that's like active on like forever big, right? Like it just gets +1/+1. Feels like it should also get bigger when you gain life. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's intentional though. I think that like having a creature that scales up every turn, like for playing other creatures, is maybe just a little bit too easy.
That's fair.
I could imagine that being pretty irritating. Like if you just go 1-drop into 1-drop, 1-drop. That's you're
Sure.
getting a lot out of a pretty easy to fulfill condition. I think.
You're
at that
very
point.
You're very correct. In Twitch chat, someone named Spencer13H is saying Pride Mate is also a cat. So that's a good point, Spencer13H. Cat deck, it's the best deck. Check out Proven Combatants on iTunes. All right, card number 19 is the card that I actually put on the list that Spencer said was bad in the past, and now he's not here to tell me why it's bad, so I'm hoping you two can. It's Mentor of the Meek. 2 white for a human soldier 2/2. When another creature enters the battlefield with power 2 or less, you may pay 1 mana. If you do, draw a card. So, if I have a white go wide strategy, I can play this card on my board or something, and I get to draw cards.
Well, so I think the biggest problem with this card the last time around is that in your white go wide strategies, you're generally trying to curve out. It obviously doesn't always happen, but honestly, if you're curving out, you're just playing a 3 mana 2/2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously quite a bit below rate.
That's fair.
Basically, you specifically have to play off curve to draw all these cards. So
That's true. I was just more thinking of it as like a sideboard card against like board sweeping decks where like you can use this as a way to like catch back up. But I guess it's asking a lot of you.
I mean, it's
never played
possible.
this
It's certainly akin to like something like Life Corruptor's Bestiary. It is harder to kill, and the 2/2 is not that relevant, and it has big deck building restrictions. So those are the things that I think make it worse than Life Corruptor's Bestiary. But
That's fair. It's very true.
I think that that's like a pretty good comparison in terms of explaining why it's probably just generally not that good. It's the kind of card, like, you would never main deck Lifecrafter's Bestiary, and because the body isn't quite good enough, you're sort of starting to get in that territory, but at the same time, it's also going to die to every removal spell. So you start getting into kind of a spot where it's like not really a main deckable or a sideboardable Lifecrafter's Bestiary, right?
That's fair.
You just somehow hit territory where it's like split the difference in a way that instead of being more universally reasonable, it's less universally reasonable.
Right.
That's fair. All right. Everything you said made sense. It is pretty good with my Hero of Cathold, though. Because it makes 1/1s when it attacks, you see?
Do we have no more cards that we wanted to talk about?
Nope, there's one more. I was about to get to it. I was pulling it up. That was called Segueing and Stalling. We got Alpine Moon.
Oh man, I wish that I had chosen a better one though. I have one that I was looking at on the spoilers
Well,
that I wish
sure,
that I
let's
would have
just-
chosen. So,
Yeah,
uh,
we
Let's just
can
talk about that one as well.
let me find the name of it really fast.
Yeah,
now.
you send it to me real quick
accidentally
on
scrolled the
Facebook.
screen.
And I'll grab it.
I have to.
Okay. Well,
actually send it to
in the
us.
meantime, Alpine Moon
It is called
kind of
Mystic
interesting.
Archaeologist for what it's worth.
All right, I'll grab it real quick. You
Oh,
keep
is that
talking.
the blue one that draws cards?
Yeah.
Keep
Okay.
talking.
But Alpine Moon is kind of cool. We were talking about it in the sideboard of Affinity specifically because it doesn't turn off your own man lands, but would be good against Tron or
Yeah, it functions similar to what you want Blood Moon to do a lot of the times in that deck, and also doesn't affect your own lands.
And it's so cheap, too.
and it's
Right.
cheap. I think one of the big things that Affinity struggles with Blood Moon specifically is just adding more threes to the deck is a really big cost. Whereas Alpine Moon can fit as like crew filler a lot more often. Like a lot of the time you'll have like an unused Springleaf Drum on a turn, and
Right.
being able to just cast an Alpine Moon as like the cap to a turn is pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going
Yep.
to say that thing
Agree.
exactly. All right, I do want to say the cool thing about this card is someone posted it on Reddit. Besides, like, obviously, like, messing up Tron, which is great and whatnot, there's apparently, like, Emrakul inside that moon, and this is apparently Innistrad, so it's, like, giving us, like, a little insight of what's happening there. And if you're a flavor judge like Michael, who's a Platinum flavor judge, it's very exciting for you because that means Emrakul's coming back and everyone loves Eldrazi. All right,
Also, the foils are going to look great. The art on this card is really sweet.
Oh yeah, if this isn't a
Posted.
playmat for a GP, I'm gonna be so upset. It seems like such a sweet playmat. Like I'll never
What if
have it.
It's a foil playmat for a GP.
Oh, so like only the moon part is foil?
I don't know. I'm
Are
just
you a
speaking nonsense.
platinum designer too? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That does seem
Chrome
kinda great,
playmat design.
I'd be into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, Watsy, if you're listening, that one's on us. All right. Mystic Archaeologist. This is 1 in a blue for a human wizard 2/1 that you can pay 3 blue, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, so honestly, this card seems fairly good to me. I mean, Azure Mage was a card back in was it M12?
Yeah, this card dumpsters Azure Mage.
Yeah, it's just like the broken version of Azure Mage. Like for 1 extra mana, you get to draw 2 cards instead of 1. I mean, obviously it's a rare instead of I believe Azure Mage was an uncommon. But I
I
mean,
mean, I'm thinking about this card in Constructed, not in.
oh yeah, no,
Limited.
I
It's obviously
agree. I'm
great
just
in
I'm
Limited,
just
but like,
no, I'm not even suggesting just for limited. I'm saying like I mean just as that's power level generally speaking. Like they'll make
Yeah,
rares better
yeah.
than. But yeah, I mean, this just seems. I mean, against a lot of decks are siding in Glensleeve Siphoner against Blue-White Control, say right now, right? If you side in this card, it's just the actual broken version of Glensleeve Siphoner in those matchups.
sure, you can like maybe beat it to Fairy with this card.
Yeah, I mean, well, certainly you can beat a Seal Away, or a Settle the Wreckage, or whatever, right?
No, it's true. It's true. It's just I think this card will see probably very little main deck play, but quite a bit of sideboard play.
But yeah, honestly, on board, like this versus Teferi, like I'd probably rather be on this side if assuming that I have 5 mana open.
Yeah, it's like it's powerful. If your opponent doesn't have good ways to interact with it, it's going to be a bad time for them. And I mean, for all the stuff we're talking about, like, but it doesn't. It also one of the advantages is like, if you can force your opponents, you have this weird like paradox, right? Where like, if your opponent doesn't keep in Seal Aways because Seal Away isn't good against this card gets so much better. Oh man, if I can just like also attack you for 2 with it, the card's completely busted, right?
Right.
So it creates this weird dichotomy where not only does it not die to seal away if they have them? They also have to like try to represent a seal away all the time, or else it's good against seal away because they don't even have seal away in their deck.
Right, yeah, it just kind of clocks them too. In the same way that like
no, I mean, I like it's super awkward actually, right? Because you would think like, oh well, this doesn't die to seal away, so I can't have seal aways in my deck. But if you actually take all the seal aways out, it's brutal. And if you don't take all the seal aways out, it's almost even better because now you're sometimes like just making them mulligan retroactively with a 2/1. Yeah, right. It's like, man, we didn't even have to pay any mana to draw cards. They just kept sealaways in.
Well, I mean, honestly, like people are citing in Knight of Graces and the blue-white mirror, right? And this card, I mean, the fail case is exactly the same, right? It's a 2-mana, 2-power creature.
Sure. It trades with a History Benalia token.
Right, or I mean, even beyond that, it just like pressures planeswalkers and things like that.
Yeah, no, this card just seems really, really solid to me.
All right.
Again, like coming back to a theme, this doesn't really ask anything of you, right? You don't have to you don't have to try very hard. There are matchups where this card is just going to be great, almost no matter how you play it.
Right.
That's very true. All right, I think that's going to do it for our set review on the cards. We talked about the 21 cards here. What was your favorite card we talked about tonight, Michael?
I had to choose me first. Well, I liked our discussion on the gender of Leonin War Leader.
Also, that card was good.
I think, yeah, I really like I really like the Planeswalker, and I really like that I learned that Goreclaw into Glorybringer is actually Goreclaw into Glorybringer Galta, because that's just cool.
That is cool, but you said Planeswalker, and we literally went over 6 of them. Which Planeswalker? Did you mean Vivian?
The green one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Vivian,
all
I
the
assume.
other ones like, less good than that.
Well, I think Ajani is pretty good as well, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I do too, but I also am... I think Ajani is like maybe a more interesting card, but it's sometimes hard to see exactly how it'll fit in, so it's hard to know.
Yeah, it's certainly not fitting your theme of, not asking anything of you, right? Like,
right.
Ajani wants to be in a pretty specific deck.
Yes, exactly.
That's very
I
true.
just think generally those cards are harder to evaluate, for better or worse.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Vivian Reed, and then I know Matt's going to give me some crap for it, but Liliana, I like it. I like the idea of pushing tribal planeswalkers, and I do think you can have a lot of zombies that are low CMC that are playable, and it'll be like a draw 3 or 4. So
I didn't actually want to come down on the side of that card is like, I actually don't hate that card. I don't think it's playable, but I do like it from a design perspective. I think it's actually really cool.
All right. Well, if you can agree from a design perspective it's pretty cool, then I think you're pretty cool. Now, friendship is magic. All right, well, that's going to do it for the training grounds.
You didn't even ask me what my card was?
You already said you liked the Johnny, I thought. It was, I'm sorry,
No,
Matt Kling.
No,
Besides
that was
the
a commentary on what I said.
No, that was just, based on what he said.
I'm sorry,
My favorite card that we talked about is probably 37 mana Nicobolus.
Just for the name.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's like meme value at this point.
I like it. We got to get a t-shirt with that. Spencer, get on that. Put in the store.
If you got a t-shirt with that, I would buy it.
Yeah?
Design it, Mason.
I'm all on it, and by that I mean Spencer, do it. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's Training Grounds, the M19 set review. It's going to be exciting. I think the pre-release is actually next weekend, right? It was like we got it kind of early this time. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
The set got spoiled really early. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm curious what we're going to do next week, though. It's exciting times for that for sure. But if you like this show and you want to give back, you can always go to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/CCMTG. I think we're pretty close to doing the Pro Tour exclusive episode, and I had some people ask me locally, like, what does that mean compared to, like, the episodes we have when Matt and Michael get back? And part of that means is you're going to get the information a little bit earlier, because we'll release it on Saturday once their Day 2 stuff has already started, and they're kind of, like, in the heat of it. So you'll have that information for, like, PPTQs and stuff like that. You're also going to before and after, along with that normal stuff, and we'll probably go more in depth and answer more Patreon questions as well. It's all kind of in the air right now. We don't have anything exactly laid out because we haven't hit it, but it's going to be a lot more in-depth on the things that I think people will want, especially if you're a patron. So if that's interesting to you, go to patreon.com. The show will always be free, and we're always going to do a post-Pro Tour episode regardless, but it's going to be a lot more in-depth, and you're going to get the information a lot sooner. Matt, if I wanted to tweet at you and tell you how amazing Liliana, whatever her name is, where could I do that?
On Twitter, I'm at the Witchkling.
Mm-hmm. Can they find you anywhere else, or? That's just
I mean, you can message me on Facebook. It's just first and last name.
Okay.
Or just add me on Facebook. Probably add me because honestly, if you just try to message me on Facebook, it's going to go into a thing that I'll never look at because it goes into a completely different I don't know.
folder. Yeah,
Yeah, a
it's
different
weird.
folder.
It used to notify you that you have like other messages, and now it doesn't. I don't know. It's a weird function. Michael Hinderocker, if I'm catching up on the podcast and I heard you be wrong about Crypto Command, I wanted to tweet at you a little bit later. Where can I do that?
Well, you can't tweet me being wrong about Crypto Command because I'm right about Crypto Command. But if you'd like to send me a tweet, you can find me at Magic Mike MTG. You can also send me something to my Facebook inbox. I will, I see them sometimes. If you send me a friend request first, I'm probably more likely to see it.
Yeah.
Assuming that's how Facebook works, probably.
Yeah,
But
that's mostly what been my experience.
But yeah, that is where you can find me.
All right, if you want to find Spencer, you can do it at Spencer13H on Twitter. You can also add him on Facebook. He always takes time to answer any listeners' questions or talk to them whenever you need to, so you can hit him there. If you want to message me and talk about how great I am as a guest host and just how funny I am and just amazing in general, you can message me on Twitter at Mason E. Clark, or you can message me on Facebook, Mason Clark. That's my name, don't wear it out. You can join the Discord. All that information is on constructedcriticism.com. I don't have the hyperlink memorized. I'm sorry, I'm not that good. You can also join the Facebook group, Constructed Criticism Family. And if you're a patron of $5 or more, you can join the Constructed Critic group. Well, we will talk about deck lists that these guys are playing on Friday before the event, and you can post stuff, and it's pretty great. It's an awesome little spot to be. You can also join the clan. You can message Spencer at Spencer13Dev on MTGO if you want to join that. And let's move on to hashtag Would That Be Good. Hashtag Would That Be Good is our Twitter outreach program. If you tweet it, we will read it. So we did this last week, right? We didn't miss last week's? I don't think we did.
No, we did this.
All right. I'm scrolling back. All right, there's me. I was the last one. So Ruby GBF tweets, this might sound like heresy, but stay with me here. Bloodbraid Elf made Jun worse, I think. Hashtag Would That Be Good. Michael Hinderocker,
Yeah.
person who's wrong about Modern all the time. What do you think?
I agree with that so much.
Yeah, it really did, though, didn't it? I think you're right. At Ruby GBF.
I'm actually really surprised that you feel that way. I feel like Jun was 100% unplayable now, and it's only like 98% unplayable now.
No,
Or it was 100% unplayable prior.
Okay, but it tricked people into thinking it was good.
Sure, that might be
Like,
true, but it certainly didn't make the deck less playable.
Well, I don't think Bloodbraid is actually very good.
Oh.
I don't know.
Keep
I mean,
talking.
I think the
Don't-
problem is
Michael coming in with
the
the
other
hard hits, man.
cards.
Cryptic Command and Bloodbraid Elf, awful. Everything that you've ever known about
trying
Magic
to
is
spend 4 mana. Stop trying to spend 4 mana. It's too
Michael
much.
wants his cards to cost 4 mana, but only if they're free.
If
like
I'm
all
tapping
lands.
3, if I'm tapping 4, I don't really. I should be casting KCI.
I've
If I'm
been
tapping
playing
3,
Paradoxical Outcome all day, man. That's basically, that's a 4 mana spell.
if you can play Paradoxical Outcome in Modern, I will give you $1.
I can play it in Modern.
That's
All right,
such
where's
an
my
easy dollar.
Where's my dollar?
Michael,
If you can
Let's try
win
the ban
that with a
restricted
deck
list
with
right
4
now.
Paradoxical Outcomes.
you're a platinum
your main
flavor
deck, I
judge,
will
but a
give you it.
fish when it comes to bets. Matt eats for free all the time, I bet. He just runs that with Michael. I see why you travel with him so much now. Jeez.
Just a nice guy.
Wow. Way to go. Golly. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I do think it is weird, too, because everyone tried to combat Modern, and now Modern's like in a super unfair, really fast place.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the actual thing is, I think that like the reason I would want to play Jund hypothetically is because it's good against humans like Jeskai is. But when you cut all the fatal pushes for Bloodbraid Elves, I just don't think you're actually that good against humans. That would be like a more fleshed version of that statement.
There we go.
I don't actually think that Bloodbraid Elf is bad, but I do think that it pulls your Jund list in a direction that is somehow bad against the elves people are playing.
That makes a lot of
You're
sense.
not grindy enough to beat the really grindy decks. Like, you're still way less grindy than Faithless Looting, Bedlam Reveler. You're way less grindy than Teferi Search for Azcanta, and you have less spot removal than either of those decks do as well. So I don't really
that's
get
certainly never been what Bloodbraid Elf is trying to do, right? Bloodbraid Elf is trying to be in a much more proactive strategy than the current Gen
Right.
deck that you're looking
The
to play.
problem is that you just get caught in this awkward mid space where like the only reason you would play a fair deck is to beat the little creature decks, and is surprisingly mediocre against the little creature decks.
This is all
Sure.
true. But it made the pawns of the deck better. All right, Adrian tweets, just found 4 mana Morphos in a box of random sleeves. Hashtag would that be good? I do not work for the great people at Oasis Games, so I do not know how much that card cost. Michael Hinderocker, Platinum Flavor
Having
Judge.
something. It's pretty good.
Yeah?
I like finding $30.
It's $30 for 4 of them?
Yeah, something like that.
Jeez.
They're like more than you'd think. It only has 2 printings.
Oh, well, I have some back when I tried to build Storm, and then no one would play with me, so I literally didn't play Storm, and it was sad.
Does it have a second printing? What's the second printing in Manamorphose?
Masters.
Oh, it was in a master
Shadow
set?
More and Modern Masters. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, sure, it was in the
I think
original
it's in
Modern
a-
Masters.
Yeah.
OG Masters, back when Magic was good. Ben Vasco tweets, RPTQ today with the boys. Let's do this. Hashtag would that be good? There's a thread here. Do I click show the thread? Do we look at how Ben didn't do well?
He did not quite get there, but they had a good time. I like Ben's attitude. It was unfortunately had some bad variants and some close calls that knocked us out. Next time.
Yep.
I
Boom.
like that. So
Yeah,
it's
no.
a good thing to remember. There's always more Magic to be played.
I like that too.
Yep.
Jared Poole tweets, so freaking hyped right now. Got my first ever 5-0 in a friendly Modern League. Super pleased right now. Hashtag would that be good? Hashtag Mofolk. Hashtag fishies for the win. There we go. 4 2-1s and a 2-0,
So they
baby.
beat Hollow One, Mardu Pyromancer, Storm, Green White Company, and Grixis Control. It's a pretty rough slate.
Yeah,
honestly.
that's like a pretty diverse metagame you played there. I
Welcome
can't
to
even
Modern
think of a
League.
deck that would be good against those 5 decks, though. Like,
I got you for one. And you can check out his content at the Mana Base. It's our partner in crime, Nikachu the Merfolk Master. Boom. He's got all the Merfolk action you need. I wonder if Jared got his list from Nikachu. Let us know, Jared. Adrian Payne tweets, took down the PPTQ without dropping a game with blue-white Godfarer's Gift. Beat Mono-Red 4 times. Esper
Nice.
2 times, and green-black Walkers once. Hashtag would that be good?
So I can imagine Modern Red being a good matchup, but beating it 4 times without dropping a game when they're playing like 4 braids is just absurd.
yeah. I mean, it's obviously
That
running
seems
above average,
crazy.
right? Like, when you win a PPTQ without dropping a game, like, you're running, mostly hotter than the sun. But
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I won anything without dropping a game.
yeah, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I 5 a league without dropping a game.
Yeah. Harder than it seems.
That's insane. That's sweet.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Gotta feel good.
Spencer Hallen tweets, amazing work by at CSP Web Design on some overlays for my constructed class series with at Mason Clark for CCMTG. Excited to get this moving and using the feedback people have given us from the first one. You can check out episode 1 here at this YouTube link. Hashtag MTG, hashtag would that be good. So June was crazy between RPTQs, vacation / GP Vegas for Spencer and I, and then Spencer's RPTQ. We just did not have time to do constructed class. So even though we started at the beginning of the month, we haven't really been able to do it. We're going to try and keep it rolling now each and every week unless something crazy happens. We're going to be battling to Modern. We're going to be battling tomorrow in Modern. It's going to be awesome. You two, right now, help me pick my deck. I'm either
You should
playing...
play
Whoa. Yeah, 2 options.
Vintage Hollow one.
That would be so
you
good
should
if I
play
just like
Vintage
if I
Spencer's
freeform
modern
challenge
deck.
Spencer.
Czar of Baghdad, triple hollow one, go. Easy, baby.
Pass. So no, but the decks I put on the. By the way, if you go to the Constructed Criticism Family Group, each week I put the decks that I'm choosing between up, and I go to the ones voted on. We're pretty close, so I need you two to decide. Are we doing Green White Value Town, or are we doing Hollow Boys? Think about the viewers too. It's not always about winning in Constructed Clash, even though I'm undefeated and I've never lost a game to Spencer in my life.
Sounds like it's always about winning, man.
Listen, I
I
don't
voted
really-
for Hollow Boys in the group, so I can't vote against it now.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would certainly also vote for Hollow one. I think that deck's just a lot more interesting than Value Town.
I love blowing up lands. All right.
I think you should mash them together. I think you should just play Burning Inquiries and Hollow Ones in your Value Town deck.
Get it.
If I play Burning Inquiry my Valley Town deck, I go Knight. Then I go Burning Inquiry, discard 3 lands, play an Excavator.
Ram
Yeah.
Up Excavator, playing from my graveyard, value.
Exactly. Swing. Spencer can't win because he's dead at this point because I discard all his good cards. I think we broke. Actually, can we cut? I'm gonna cut this part out. Yeah.
Can't let it get out.
On,
Exactly.
Honest Bob tweets, I saw this when I lived in Utah. Weirdly good root beer. Hashtag would that be good? And it's He's responding to Spencer tweeting, "Is root beer with your pizza a thing outside of Utah?" I've never heard of this. I mean, sometimes people get a root beer when they're eating pizza. Is this a thing that happens in Utah?
So I don't know that they're like. I've never heard of them being correlated or anything like that. Like it seems like you can just get root
No,
beer and
yeah.
pizza, but like
I've root beer with probably a lot of meals at some point in my life, but
right.
specifically.
All right.
But
and
maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I've never heard of them being like tied together in any kind of way, but maybe that's just maybe I'm sheltered.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of a time where anyone was like, "Oh yeah, I love that pizza and root beer. That's my jam."
I've never heard the
It
phrase
sounds
pizza and
fine.
root beer. I will say that.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds
Like,
bad. It's
I
just
mean,
weird that'd be a
so
thing.
I'm not like not into it. I'm just not, you know.
Yeah,
If someone offered me pizza and root beer, it sounds mostly good.
yeah. If I invite you over, you're like, "Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that could happen?" Then you find out there's pineapple on your pizza and it goes terribly with the root beer. All that sweetness isn't good. Spencer Helen tweets, hashtag would that be good? Should have 1 week a month where you ask at sorry, Magic Mike MTG flavor judge questions so you can keep his platinum status as head judge. Michael, you have a lot of power now when it comes to flavor.
You know, honestly, I probably ask flavor judge questions a lot more at work than most people do. Something I'm very concerned with in Magic in general. I don't know why. I'm just curious about the flavor of it.
I'm gonna let you know a secret, Michael. I never ask flavor judge questions at work, so you're definitely asking more than I am.
Probably more than Matt.
Yeah, certainly more than me. I mean, every once in a while I'll ask something about the flavor, but like it's pretty rare.
This seems like a Patreon stretch goal. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
That's one of the main parts of the Pro Tour exclusive episode.
Yeah. It's like, so you had some time to talk to some other pros. What was the flavor ruling on this? All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will see you all next week.
Thanks.